A very warm welcome to all my students and viewers. This is the Bishop Heritage School, Patna, and this is assignment number 4 for class 8. The subject is literature in English, and we'll be doing the prose, My Greatest Olympic Prize by Jesse Owens. My Greatest Olympic Prize by Jesse Owens. Now, the story My Greatest Olympic Prize is actually a kind of autobiography, meaning when a person writes about himself or shares an experience about himself is known as autobiographical or autobiography. Now, Jesse Owens was a famous athlete who shared his experience at the Berlin 1936 Olympics. Now, who was Jesse Owens? Jesse Owens, the son of a sharecropper and grandson of a slave, achieved what no Olympian before him had accomplished. His stunning achievement of 4 gold medals at the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin has made him the best remembered athlete in Olympic history. The 7th child of Henry and Emma Alexander Owens was named James Cleveland when he was born in Alabama on September 12, 1913. J.C., as he was called, was 9 when the family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, where his new school teacher gave him the name that was to become around the world a famous one. The teacher was told J.C. when she asked his name to enter in her roll book, but she thought he said Jesse. The name stuck and he would be known as Jesse Owens for the rest of his life. Jesse gave the world a preview of things to come in Berlin while at the Big Ten Championships in Ann Arbor on 25th May 1935. He set 3 world records and tied a 4th, all in a span of about 45 minutes. Jesse was uncertain as to whether he would be able to participate at all, as he was suffering from a sore back as a result from a fall down to flight of stairs. He convinced his coach to allow him to run the 100-yard dash as a test for his back, and amazingly, Jesse recorded an official time of 9.4 seconds, once again tying the world record. Owens traveled widely in his post-Olympic days. He was an inspirational speaker, highly sought after to address youth groups, professional organizations, high school and college commencements and ceremonies. He was also a public relations representative and consultant to many corporations, including Atlantic Richfield, Ford, and the United States Olympic Committee. Owens died from complications due to lung cancer on March 31, 1980 in Arizona. Although words of sorrow and sympathy poured in from all over the world, perhaps President Carter said it best when he stated, "Perhaps no athlete better symbolized the human struggle against tyranny, poverty, and racial bigotry. His personal triumphs as a world-class athlete and record holder were the prelude to a career devoted to helping others. His work with young athletes as an unofficial ambassador overseas and a spokesman for freedom are a rich legacy to his fellow Americans." The setting of the story, My Greatest Olympic Prize, is very important politically, because the Olympics that was held at Berlin in 1936 was a kind of opportunity. Hitler saw that as a kind of opportunity to show to the world that his racial supremacy theory of the Aryans was really a valid one. He was an anti-Semitist, meaning anti-Semitist or anti-Semitism is a kind of philosophy that holds a bias against the Jews or the non-Germans. He believed that the Germans were a kind of master race, a tall, white-skinned, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, yellow-haired Germans. They were a kind of master race, and they're superior to all the other races in the world. He twisted the definition of Aryan. As we know that during the Vedic period and later Vedic stages, the Aryans, they are as known as Aryans, they invaded the Indian subcontinent and pushed the Dravidians away. But he twisted the Aryan theory and made it its own theory of a kind of racial supremacy. So Jesse Owens had gone to Berlin to participate in the Summer Olympic Games when Hitler was ruling over Germany. Hitler had propagated the myth that there was no race superior to that of the Aryan race. In such a hostile atmosphere, Jesse came to prove to the world how wrong Hitler was. He set a track record by winning 4 gold medals to the great admiration and amazement of all. And this is the basic theme of this story, that sports excels. It excels any kind of racial prejudice or bias. As we get to see, the epitome of true sportsmanship was highlighted by Jesse Owens and Lutz Long, who was a German himself, but he did not believe in the Nazi. Hitler's party was known as the Nazis. The Nazi theory of Aryan superiority. My Greatest Olympic Prize by Jesse Owens. So he's beginning his narration of the events that took place at the Berlin Olympics in 1936. He goes like this. It was the summer of 1936. The Olympic Games were being held in Berlin. So it was the summertime of 1936. The Olympic Games were being held in Berlin, the capital of then Germany. It's still the capital of Germany. Because Hitler, he's saying, childishly, in a very matured way, insisted that his performers or his athletes were members of a master race. He considered Germans to be superior to the entire world. Nationalistic feelings, the feelings of race, feelings of patriotism were very high at that point of time, talking about the entire world. I wasn't too worried about all these things. He's saying I wasn't too concerned about all these nonsense. I trained, sweated and disciplined myself for 6 years. For 6 years, I've really worked hard to be a super athlete. With the games in mind, my only agenda was to win a gold medal in the Olympic Games. You know, Olympics are being held every 4 years. While I was going over on the boat, referring to the ship, all I could think about was taking home 1 or 2 of those gold medals. I only considered my chances of winning a gold medal, or rather gold medals in that Olympics. I had my eye especially on the running broad jump. I was targeting the event of long jump. A year before, as a sophomore means a trainee, a sports trainee at Ohio State University, Ohio is in America, I'd set the world's record of 26 feet, 8 1/4 inches. So he set a world record in the event of long jump. Everyone kind of expected me to win the Olympic event hands down. Everyone expected Jesse Owens to win a gold medal in that Olympic Games to be held at Berlin in 1936 easily. I was in for a surprise, but there was a surprise for him. When the time came for the broad jump trials for the qualifying rounds of the long jumps, I was startled, I was surprised to see a tall boy hitting the pit at almost 26 feet on his practice leap. So there was a tall athlete from Germany and he was easily qualifying. He was hitting 26 feet easily. Just a while ago, Jesse Owens said, just in the first passage he said, that he set a world record of 26 feet during his college days, but that was being easily surpassed by Luz Long. He turned out to be a German named Luz Long. I was told that Hitler had kept him under wraps. Hitler had totally hid him. He didn't want to reveal Luz Long. He was a kind of trump card for him. Evidently hoping to win the jump with him. Hitler was expecting to win the long jump event in that world arena, world platform of sports events, talking about the Berlin Olympics with Luz Long. I guess that if Long won, it would add some new support to the Nazis' Aryan superiority theory. So that was the kind of theory that was propagated by Hitler. The Germans, the blonde-haired, yellow-haired, white-skinned, tall, blue-eyed Germans, they were a superior race. And if Luz Long won that event of long jump, Hitler would really solidify his supremacy theory. His supremacy theory is theory of Aryan superiority in front of the world arena. After all, I'm a Negro and he was a Negro. Negro means black people from Nigeria are being called in a slangish way by the Americans Negroes or niggers. A little hot under the collar about Hitler ways. I was really angry. I was really miffed with the philosophy of Hitler. I was determined to go out there and really show Der Führer. Der Führer means the leader, talking about Hitler. It's a kind of German, it's a German word, German term. And his master race and his so-called master race of the Germans, who was superior and who wasn't. An angry athlete is an athlete who will make mistakes. Even Sachin Tendulkar said that if you're angry, you won't be able to concentrate. You always feel like hitting the bowler out of the park. An athlete always needs to calm down. He should be having a calm temperament. So Jesse Owens is saying an angry athlete is an athlete who will make mistakes, as any coach will tell you. I was no exception. On the first of my 3 qualifying jumps, I leaped from several inches beyond the takeoff boat for a foul. So he was making fouls after fouls because Jesse Owens was not his normal self. He wanted to prove something. Instead of enjoying his sporting qualities, he wanted to prove to the world that in spite of being a black person, he was better than the so-called Germans. And he wanted to defy Hitler. He wanted to prove Hitler wrong. He wanted to prove Hitler's Aryan supremacy, Aryan superiority theory wrong. I fouled even worse on my second jump. Did I come 3,000 miles from America for this? I thought bitterly. I was very angry. To foul out of the trials and make a fool of myself, just to disqualify and make a fool of myself in front of the world. So Jesse Owens is saying that an angry athlete is an athlete who will make mistakes, as any coach will tell you. An athlete cannot have an angry temperament. He should be always calm and cool. So he was also no exception to this sporting rule. On the first day of my 3 qualifying jumps, I leaped from several inches beyond the takeoff boat for a foul, and he was making fouls after fouls. On the second jump, I fouled even worse. Did I come across 3,000 miles from America to make a fool out of myself? He was thinking on those lines. He was being very negative. Walking a few yards from the pit, I kicked disgustedly at the dirt. He kicked at the dirt. He kicked at the ground. He was taking all his frustration out. Suddenly I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to look into the friendly blue eyes of the tall German broad jumper. So here comes Lars Long, and this is the beginning of a lifelong friendship that will cultivate between Jesse Owens and Lars Long. He had easily qualified for the finals on his first attempt. Lars Long had already qualified. Jesse Owens was still struggling. He offered me a firm handshake. Jesse Owens, I'm Lars Long. I don't think we have met. He spoke English well, though with a German twist to it. The Germans used to speak English in a different way. Like this sentence, Jesse Owens, I'm Lars Long. I don't think we have met. Germans would have said it like this. Jesse Owens, I'm Lars Long. I don't think we have met. They always pronounce D as der and T as der like that, phonetics. Glad to meet you, I said, then trying to hide my nervousness because he was nervous or making fouls after fouls and he was confronting Lars Long who had already qualified. He was feeling very inferior about himself. I added, how are you? I'm fine. The question is, how are you? What do you mean? Jesse Owens counter-questioned. Something must be eating you. He said, proud the way foreigners are when they have mastered a bit of American slang. The foreigners, non-Americans, when they speak like the Americans, they feel very proud. Like we people, nowadays we hardly speak like proper British English. If we want to say, how are you, we will say, hey, what's up? And we feel very proud about it. We are speaking like the Americans. Hey, bud, what's up? Instead of, hey, how are you? We don't speak like that anymore. You should be able to qualify with your eyes closed, he said. Believe me, I know it. I told him, I know. Jesse Owens said, I know I've got in me to qualify, but it felt good to say that to someone. But when you share your feelings with somebody, you feel good. He was also feeling better after having a moment of camaraderie, friendship and bonding with Lars Long. For the next few minutes, we talked together. This struck a conversation. I didn't tell Long what was eating me. I didn't tell him what was worrying me. But he seemed to understand my anger. He seemed to understand what was frustrating Jesse Owens. And he took pains, he took efforts to reassure me, to reinstill the feelings of confidence within Jesse Owens. Continuing with my greatest Olympic prize, Jesse Owens is saying that although he had been schooled in the Nazi youth movement, referring to Lars Long, he's saying that although Lars Long was brought up, was educated in the Nazi school environment, in the Nazi environment where the Germans considered themselves to be superior to any other race. So much so, Hitler, he killed 2 million Jews, Holocaust. He held them captive in gas chambers and he killed them. He was totally biased. He's saying in spite of being brought up in such kind of environment, Lars Long did not believe in the Aryan supremacy business any more than I did. He was also a non-believer in the theory of Hitler that Aryans were superior to all other races in the world. We laughed over the fact that he really looked the part. They cracked a joke. Lars Long really looked like a perfect Aryan as per Hitler. He was tall, he was blonde, he was white-skinned, he had blue eyes, so he looked like a perfect Aryan, a master person from a master race. Though an inch taller than he was 1 inch taller than Jesse Owens. He had a lean, muscular frame. He was muscular, was solid, clear blue eyes, blonde hair, and a strikingly handsome chiseled face. He had very sharp features. Finally seeing that I had calmed down somewhat, he pointed to the takeoff board. After calming the nerves down of Jesse Owens, he took him to the qualifying mark, the takeoff board. Look, he said, why don't you draw a line a few inches in back of the board and aim at making your takeoff from there? Why don't you, since you are overstepping, why don't you step a bit behind while taking your leap? You'll be sure not to foul and you certainly ought to jump far enough to qualify. What does it matter if you're not first in the trials? You don't have to win the qualifying round, you just need to qualify. Tomorrow is what counts. Tomorrow, the Olympic finals, that's the day where what everything counts. You got to perform the best there. Here you just need to qualify. Suddenly all the tension seemed to ebb away, disappear from my body as the truth of what he said hit me. He realized he is right. Lars Long is right. During the qualifying rounds, why am I getting so agitated? Why am I getting so pumped up? I don't need to. I just need to qualify. Confidently, I drew a line a full foot in back of the board and proceeded to jump from there. I qualified with almost a foot to spare. That night I walked over to Lars Long's room in the Olympic Village. In the when Olympic events take place, they form a kind of village. All the athletes are put up there, the coaches and the sports staff and all. He went to thank Lars Long. I knew that if it hadn't been for him, I probably wouldn't be jumping in the finals the following day. We sat in his quarters and talked for 2 hours. For a couple of hours, we chatted like buddies. about track and field, about all the events, athleticism and everything. We talked about ourselves, the political situation in the then world, the Nazis and everything, a dozen other things. We went on talking about all these things. Jesse Owens says that when I finally got up to leave from Les Long's quarters, we both knew that a real friendship had been formed. Les would go out to the field the next day trying to beat me because he was also going to be a fellow contestant, a fellow competitor, but they were really friends. What matters in sports is not winning but participating. Sportsman's spirit is very important, but I knew that he wanted me to do my best. In spite of being a rival of Jesse Owens, Les Long always wished well for him, even if that meant my winning. As it turned out, talking about the final day of Berlin Olympics, Les broke his own past record. Les Long surpassed his own past record. In doing so, he pushed me on to a peak performance, and I delivered my peak performance. I remember that at the instant I landed from my final jump, the one which set the Olympic record of 26 feet, 5 and 5/16 inches. He was at my side. Les Long broke his past record, but Jesse Owens created a world record. He did beat Les Long's record as well, and he won the gold medal, and Les Long was just by him, congratulating him. Despite the fact that Hitler was staring towards Les Long and Jesse Owens, he was fired up. His Aryan superiority theory went for a toss. It was kicked out of the window by a black person, Jesse Owens. And Les Long, in spite of being a German, was an epitome, was symbol, an embodiment, an emblem of perfect sportsman. Hitler was glaring at us from the stands, not 100 yards away. Les shook my hand hard, and it wasn't a fake smile. He was really happy, with a broken heart sort of grip either. He was not shaking hands with Jesse Owens with his heart broken because he lost. No, he was happy that Jesse Owens won, and he was happier that he encouraged Jesse Owens to win, and he also broke his past record. That's what matters in sports. Participation matters more. Jesse Owens says, you can melt down all the gold medals and cups. You can give me the entire gold that you can derive from the gold cups and gold medals. But there couldn't be plating on a 24-carat friendship I felt for Les Long. But they didn't hold any value in front of the friendship that we both developed. That was real gold. I realized then too, Les was the epitome. He was a symbol of what Pierre de Coubertin, in English, it's a French name. He was the founder of modern Olympics. Pierre de Coubertin. It's the English pronunciation of the French name, but the real French pronunciation goes like this. Pierre de Coubertin. Pierre de Coubertin. That's a French pronunciation. English pronunciation is Pierre de Coubertin. The founder of the modern Olympic Games must have had in mind when he said, the important thing in the Olympic Games is not winning but taking part. Participation. Therefore, we tell you children that participate. Do not be concerned about the results. Just give your full effort and that is it. The essential thing, the most valuable thing, the essence of life is not conquering, not winning, but fighting it well, giving your best shot. That is the basic essence of this story. Sportsman's spirit, camaraderie, bonding, the value of an attitude of a sportsman. That's the main essence of this story. Now let us conclude this story by focusing on the basic theme of this story, or rather this autobiographical piece by Jesse Owens. Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of modern Olympics, had said that the most important thing in Olympic Games is not winning but taking part. The essential thing in life is not conquering but fighting well. These words highlight the true spirit of sportsmanship. Les Long, in spite of the overbearing pressure of Hitler, the dictator showed that true sportsmanship was encouraging your fellow sportsmen to do well. Hitler wanted to prove to the world that the Aryan race was superior to all other races and hence invincible. But Les Long realized the true potential of Jesse Owens, a black American who had set an amazing track record of 26 feet 8 1/4 inches as a sophomore, as a trainee at the Ohio State University in the long jump. Seeing Les Long clearing the long jump easily at 26 feet at the trials, he thought that Les Long was out to prove to the world the Nazis' Aryan superiority belief. But when Les came and offered him advice on how to overcome his defect, he realized he had found a friend in him, which was a 24-carat friendship compared to pure gold. Following his advice, he qualified in the trials and went on to win the Olympics in the finals. Les had no racial feelings, not the Aryan belief of superiority. He believed in the true potential of a competitor. He brought out that competitive spirit of Jesse by exhibiting what true sportsmanship and friendship is. Les Long could have been his rival and derailed his attempts to qualify in the trials by not showing his error. But like an honest and true friend, he advised him on how to overcome his fatal fault which almost cost him his gold medal in the finals. Thus the two fought well in the field, but the superior competitor won and was acknowledged as the victor by the other without any rancor, without any grudge. The story is one of true courage to rise above the might of one dictator and one nation. It is a story of true friendship and sportsmanship which rises above all considerations of caste, creed or discrimination and recognizes the true potential of an individual. Only because of these qualities the world witnessed the greatest athlete of 1936 Berlin Olympics in Jesse Owens.